Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lexi Laban. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Film Institute, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the 41st Annual San Francisco Jewish Film Festival and to today's presentation by the JFI Social Justice Teen Film Fellows Program. I'd like to thank the sponsors of the program, the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund. JFI champions bold films and filmmakers that expand and evolve the Jewish story for audiences everywhere. I can't think of a program that more embodies this than our presentation today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our new Filmmaker Services Manager, Marcia Jarmel, who will introduce today's program.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited to share with you this program today. I am the new manager of JFI's Filmmaker Services, and we offer finishing funds to outstanding film projects with Jewish content of all sorts. And we support new work through our residency program. But this year, for the first time, we are bringing together 13 young people from around the Bay Area to develop and present programs connecting film with social justice, the JFI Teen Social Justice Fellows, who you'll meet in a bit. We are honored that our inaugural program is in this year's Take Action series at the Film Festival. It's our yearly spotlight on films reflecting the Jewish value of tikkun olam, helping to repair the world. We're thrilled that our Q&A this year is with the crew from Not Going Quietly, and that our special guests were able to join us. If you've seen the film, you know that we're in for an inspiring conversation. If you haven't yet, it is screening at the festival virtually through August 1st across the country. So let's watch a clip from the film, and then we'll turn it over to the teens to introduce our guests and begin the conversation. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat and we'll get to as many as possible.
Hey Carl, it's me, Dad. By the time you're watching this, you will have grown up to be strong and courageous, but I don't know how much longer I'll be around for you.
I was diagnosed with ALS today, which is a deadly, debilitating disease.
After I was diagnosed, the president passed a tax bill that put my health care at risk. So I went to Washington, D.C.
My next guest made headlines when he confronted a Republican senator on an airplane.
You can be an American hero. I wanted to help create a better country for you to live in. Democracy is beautiful! Democracy is beautiful! All that matters to me is to make you proud, because I'm already so proud of you.
Hello America. My name is Ady Barkan, and I am speaking to you through this computer voice because I have been paralyzed by a mysterious illness called ALS. Like so many of you, I have experienced the ways our healthcare system is fundamentally broken. Enormous costs, denied claims, dehumanizing treatment when we are most in need. Since my shocking diagnosis, I have traveled the country meeting countless patients like me, demanding more of our representatives and our democracy. Today, we are witnessing the tragic consequences of our failing healthcare system. In the midst of a pandemic, nearly 100 million Americans do not have sufficient health insurance. And even good insurance does not cover essential needs like long-term care. Our loved ones are dying in unsafe nursing homes, our nurses are overwhelmed and unprotected, and our essential workers are treated as dispensable. We live in the richest country in history, and yet we do not guarantee this most basic human right. Everyone living in America should get the health care they need, regardless of their employment status or ability to pay. Even during this terrible crisis, Donald Trump and Republican politicians are trying to take away millions of people's health insurance. With the existential threat of another 4 years of this president, we all have a profound obligation to act. Not only to vote, but to make sure that our friends, family, and neighbors vote as well. We must elect Joe Biden. Each of us must be a hero for our communities, for our country, and then, with a compassionate and intelligent president, we must act together and put on his desk a bill that guarantees us all the health care we deserve. Text VOTE to 30330 to learn how to vote safely, because our lives depend on it.
All right, so that's a little bit about what the film's about and some footage from the film. And now we'll be introducing the teens. So everyone, please come on and turn on your cameras. And the teens are just going to briefly introduce themselves before we get started.
Hello, my name is Adrian Feinberg. I am a JFI Social Justice Fellow and an incoming freshman at Stanford University.
Hi, my name is Andrea Leon. I'm also part of the JFI, and I'm going to be a senior at Berkeley High.
Hi, my name is Ava Korupka. I'm going to be a junior at Berkeley High, and I'm also part of the JFI Film Fellows.
Hi, I'm Daniel Greenfield. I'm going to be a junior in Novato High, and I'm also part of the JFI Teen Fellowship.
Hi, my name is Elta Tracy. I'm going to be a junior at Berkeley High, and I'm part of the Film Fellows.
Hi, my name is Frances Frias. I'm also part of the JFI Fellowship, and I'm going to be a senior at the Athenaeum School.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Buzansky. I'm also part of the JFI Teen Fellows, and I'm going to be a junior at Berkeley High School.
Hi, my name is Jenna Miller. I'm going to be a senior at Terra Linda High School in Marin, and I'm also a part of the JFI Teen Fellows.
Hi, I'm Kai. I'm also part of the JFI Teen Fellows, and I will be a senior at Oakland School for the Arts.
Hi, my name is Solina. I'm a rising senior at Bishop Odette High School in Oakland, and I'm also a JFI Teen Fellow.
Thank you, everyone. So we're going to disappear the teens temporarily and bring them back to ask their questions. So yes, so we're already turning off your cameras. Thank you. And I'm going to introduce now Adrian, who's going to introduce our guests.
Hello. Hello and welcome everyone to our JFI Social Justice Fellow-led Q&A with the makers of Not Going Quietly, Nicholas Bruckman and Amanda Roddy, as well as, of course, the film's main subject, activist Ady Barkan. My name is Adrian Feinberg, as I already said, and I am a Social Justice Fellow, and I have the extreme pleasure of introducing our esteemed guest today. Ady will need no introduction to those of you who watched Not Going Quietly or are otherwise invested in healthcare reform in this country. Ady Barkan is a lawyer, social justice activist, and co-founder of the Be a Hero PAC, one of the nation's leading healthcare advocacy organizations. His book, Eyes to the Wind, a memoir of love and death, hope and resistance, was published in September by Atria Books. We are so lucky to be joined as well by filmmaker and director of Not Going Quietly, Nicholas Bruckman. He produced the narrative feature Valley of Saints, which won the Sundance Film Festival Audience Award and was nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. Nicholas is also the founder of People's Television, a New York-based film and commercial production company. Through People's TV, he directs branded content for clients including Facebook, Airbnb, and Greenpeace. Also joining us today is filmmaker and producer of Not Going Quietly, Amanda Roddy. Amanda is a producer and director with People's Television, where she has led projects for clients like the DNC, the Elizabeth Warren Campaign, Equal Justice Works, the Nature Conservancy, and the Equity Fund. She wrote, directed, and produced the payday lending documentary, Bleed Them Dry, and previously worked as an associate producer for an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker in Boston. Thank you very much.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started with a question from Ava.
Hi, I have a question for Nick and Amanda. What inspired you to make a film about ALS?
Thanks, Ava, for the question. And yeah, Ady inspired us to make the film about ALS. It wasn't a subject that I was pursuing outside of having met Ady and been overwhelmed by the work that he was doing against all obstacles to improve our democracy and to fight for universal healthcare. And so I think one of the tension points that we struggled with in making the film, and I think it's something that Ady wrestles with or is navigating in his work, is whether his work is actually about ALS. And I might push back a little bit about whether this film is inherently about ALS or is just about somebody that has it. Ady's story, I think, as he says later in the film, although his story is unique, it is not so rare because so many Americans are going through similar situations. ALS, of course, is an incredibly profound and extreme disease, and the symptoms that Ady's experiencing are obviously very visible. But I think his story is emblematic of so many people with chronic conditions and even without who are victimized by our healthcare system. And so I think we saw Ady's ALS and his work not so much as a film about ALS, but as an entry point to examine what folks can do to partake in our democracy, how we can build a more just and equitable healthcare system. And this kind of idea, well, if Ady can do that with ALS, then any of us can do it. And that really inspired me.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Nick said. And I think what kind of compelled us in part to make a film about Ady was his fight for democracy, or to allow our democracy to live another day, which was something that resonated with us and we knew would resonate with a lot of people. And when we met him too, he's such an incredible person and someone who speaks with a lot of intention and is able to bring a lot of people into his cause because of that. And I think that quality is very rare in a person. And that also made us really excited that he allowed us to tell his story, because we knew that he was going to do something incredible because of the person that he was and is. And I think we were just a little bit along for the ride, and I think we're both very grateful that we did it.
Thank you. Selena?
Hi, so my question's for Ady. So has the release of the film had an impact on your cause, or how do you hope that it will?
You all are among one of the first public audiences to see this film, so I don't think it's had a great impact on social justice yet, at least not one that I'm aware of. But as it reaches more people, I do hope the movie eventually does have an impact. I allowed Nick and Amanda to make this movie because I wanted people to see the power and beauty of engaging in collective action and civic engagement. There are times, especially these days, when the state of things in our country seem impossibly bleak. Whether it's the climate crisis or voting rights or police violence or corporate capture of our courts, we have immense, structural problems that often feel beyond the pale. But the truth is that despair is not the answer, and we need people to get involved. Not only because mass participation in social movements is the only way we'll achieve justice in this country, but also because I deeply believe people have a lot to gain from becoming politically engaged. Joining the movement has given me such a strong sense of purpose, and such a community of caring people, that it's even lessened the burden of this terrible disease. I hope people see this in the film, and find their own way to benefit from activism while also helping to make our nation more fair and just.
Thank you so much for that and that reminder about what we can do instead of feeling bleak about the future. Elta?
Hello. I have a question for Nicholas and Amanda. I was wondering, how did the final project differ from your original plans for the film?
Thanks, Elta.
That's
Yeah, you go first, Amanda.
Sure. It's such a good question because when you're making a documentary film, it's really impossible to know what the end result will look like, especially when it's verite and you're following someone's life, because no one can predict what's going to happen in anyone's life. So I think when we first started out, we knew that Ady had this big road trip across the country planned for the midterm elections, and that felt like big enough of an event to create a feature film around, and we kind of thought that that was going to be it. But then he and Liz started planning some more stuff, and we're like, okay, I guess we gotta keep filming. And he met with all the Democratic presidential candidates, which is something that we never anticipated, but he did do. And he also, of course, testified in front of Congress in support of Medicare for all, which was something that was totally blew our minds at the time, but he did that, and we were like, I guess the story continues. So we just kept filming and kind of let things unfold. And it was really hard too to figure out when would be a good natural end point for filming, because they just kept working and working and working. But we did kind of figure out this nice emotional and personal arc throughout the film for Ady, for Liz, for the Be a Hero campaign, for Ady's family, and decided it was time to get out of their hair and let them be a family again instead of chasing them down with cameras 24/7. So it changed a lot. Initially, we thought it'd be a road trip film, but it ended up being much more. It ended up being, the makings of a political movement and a campaign to advocate for Medicare for all.
Amazing that you guys were there already filming. It's good. You could not plan that for sure.
Very lucky.
Adrian?
Yes, seeing as this is the Jewish Film Festival, I have a question for Ady, which is, do you see your fight for accessible and affordable healthcare as reflecting Jewish values?
That's an interesting question. I am a Jew and an Israeli citizen, but the place where I really find my spirituality is in democracy. The notion that we should order our world based on decisions that we make together, that political struggle is timeless, essential, and liberating. This is my religious conviction, my secular faith. More than anything, I think I've spent my career in pursuit of a more just and equitable democracy because that is what I value, and what I most deeply believe.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Kai?
Hi, I'm Kai. I sing for Oakland School for the Arts. And in my school, we do this warm-up before class called A Rose and a Thorn, where you say a highlight of an experience, which is your rose, and a not so good aspect of it, which is your thorn, in whichever order. So this is a question for Ady. What is your rose and thorn about leaving home to travel through the country in an RV making political change?
When our team set out to travel the country, we knew it would be difficult. It was hard to be away from my wife and miss the small, and yet important moments of Carl's early life. The physical toll was also tough to bear, and some days I really felt as though I could not go on. But we did. I learned early on that my having ALS forces people to listen to me with newfound attentiveness. Organizing is about using the resources at your disposal to build the power you need to accomplish your goals, and ALS is unfortunately very much at my disposal. So it was important to me to be in person while I could. Our entire team made sacrifices to be on the road together. That tour was only possible because we shared the belief that this was the single most important and effective way to mobilize Americans across the country to fight back against Donald Trump and win back the House of Representatives. We traveled from California to Maine and met folks in 30 congressional districts. And that year, Democrats won back the House and introduced the most diverse freshman class in the history of the House. I'd say the rose helps compensate for the thorn.
Gabriella?
Hi, this is a question for Ady. While filming this documentary, I was wondering, how did having cameras around you affect your life? And how did having all the cameras around you make you feel?
You know, I had been living a perfect life. My brilliant wife had just given birth to our beautiful newborn son, and I had a great career fighting for racial and economic justice. We lived in the idyllic beach town of Santa Barbara, California, and could see decades of happiness stretching out in front of us. And then, out of the clear blue sky, we were struck by the lightning bolt of ALS. So, ultimately, I had to decide how I wanted to spend my final years. I had to decide what really matters most to me. And I thought long and hard about it. I talked to my wife, Rachel. And, in the end, I just reached the conclusion that what is most important, above all else, is being famous and making a lot of money. So, Nick, the director of our documentary, and Amanda, our producer, asked if they could make a film about me. They said that I could be like a reality TV show star. And I said yes. Because, you know, I am really not here to make friends. I am here to win. And that is really what it's all about for me.
Uh-huh. You can tell that. Jenna?
Hi, I'm Jenna. This is a question for Nick and Amanda. I'm interested in being a filmmaker myself, so I always like to see what's going on behind the scenes. I was wondering, the film was centered around reaching representatives directly. How did their restrictive media policies factor into telling the story effectively?
You go first, Amanda.
Oh, sure. It was an interesting thing to navigate. A lot of times, Ady and Liz and the Be a Hero team would approach particular representatives without warning, because they wanted to catch them at a moment where they could have a direct conversation with them. And if they knew that, you know, someone who was on the other side of the political aisle with them was trying to make a meeting, they might delay. So they just went directly to the source, and we kind of followed along as well. And because they are public representatives, we could film that as well. So we were generally, for larger spaces, when there is a large group of people and they know that filming is going on, you can get permission to do that. So we were able to film all the protests and larger meetings without any issue. And then otherwise we were mostly filming either on public property or went in with cameras, and also tried to get some stuff that was a little bit hairier to get, and then we did have to backtrack and get releases for those as well. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's a really good question. But those types of interactions are critically important to get as well. As you see, bird dogging is an essential part of the film, and exposing, you know, the ways in which those representatives speak to their constituents is something that we felt strongly about getting out to a larger audience, just to see a lot of the dismissiveness too, and to get people kind of fired up and ready to engage, and also to see other people who aren't necessarily activists or organizers by trade, but wanted to make an impact, wanted to tell their story, wanted to confront elected officials, and share their pain, share their struggles, so that someone would take them seriously and force them to look at them and not to look away. So it's a great question. I don't know, Nick, if you have anything to add.
I would just add, that's all correct. And I would just add that my philosophy with social justice documentary filmmaking is that the ends justify the means. And by that, I mean that the relationship that you have with your audience and the person who's ultimately going to see the film is important. And sometimes you have to do things in the present which might feel aggressive or pushy, and that could look like showing up at a hospital to film where you haven't yet worked it out with everybody, or it can mean walking into a congressperson's office, or it can mean coming up to somebody's face with a camera, either in an intimate moment or a private moment. And of course, it's really important to have relationships with the people in person that they believe in what you're doing and they agree that that kind of approach is going to be worth it. But I think if you're afraid or you're worried about permissions, you may not get those types of scenes that are always the most powerful scenes in any documentary. And so my philosophy is to kind of get ask for forgiveness. And really when it comes down to kind of releases and permissions, what the person who's going to really need that is your distributor with a film. And in order to have a distributor, you're going to need to make an amazing film, and you're going to need to go out and push really hard. And if you get great footage, there's always ways to go back and make that work. So I tend try not to be held back by those kinds of formalities. There's even somebody who says, which I think is a very interesting philosophical approach, that release forms are actually not a good thing. Because if you have a release form with somebody, what you're saying is like that they are signing away their right to ever dispute what you've said here. So it's like a total power dynamic that's shifted in favor of the person getting it signed. And so I think what you should do is like treat people well who are in front of the camera, represent them fairly and authentically, even if they're a Republican congressperson, as in the case of some of the folks in this film. And I think that kind of approach can help you get material that you just wouldn't otherwise see on screen.
Thank you.
Francis?
Hi, this is a question for Ady. What would you say is your favorite part of the documentary? Whether that's a scene, a message, a character, or anything else?
You tell me.
Do you have a favorite scene, Francis?
It's difficult. I think I have a lot of favorite scenes. One of my favorites, I think, as the film is coming to an end, just to see you speaking with all of the different Democratic presidential candidates, and to hear you kind of almost interrogating them and really fighting for what you think they should be acting on. I found that really inspiring, and also to see your interaction with your son. I found that really touching. Yeah.
This is a really amazing conversation and really quite inspiring for me.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you.
We have time for just...
That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
We have time for just a couple other quick questions from our teens. Andrea, do you want to ask quickly your question?
Yeah, hi. I was wondering how people can get involved and support your work.
A really, really great question. You can definitely go to the beaherofund.com and learn all about the work that Ady and his organization Be a Hero is doing. You'll also be directly linked there to all their social media channels, and we would always highly recommend that you follow Ady Barkan on Twitter. He's very active there and posts a lot of his recent work. And to follow the film too and updates of the film, it's notgoingquietlyfilm.com. And we also link to our various social media channels there. So that's another great way to stay up to date and to learn how to get involved. There are resources there as well. And not sure.
Tell your friends to come see the movie.
Yes, also extremely helpful. Get everyone you know to the theater safely.
It'll be coming out first in New York and LA, as we were telling Marcia before the call, on August 12th. And then we're hoping it'll be in theaters in San Francisco in the following weeks. So check local listings. And then it will be on iTunes and video on demand in early October. So that'll be the opportunity for folks to see it. And then finally, it will be on PBS POV in January. So lots of opportunities to come, but nothing like the popcorn experience.
And the big screen. Well, I hope your release goes really well. I'm sure many people that the word of mouth on this film is going to be really strong. So I hope you enjoy that, all of you. And I'm super grateful that you made time for us, and Ady, that you came to meet with us. I think it's really, for our first event with the teens, it's a wonderful way to start. So we're grateful. So we're going to just invite all the teens to turn on their cameras so we can say goodbye to everyone. And a reminder that you can watch the film here on the JFI website until August 1st.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it was a wonderful conversation. Best of luck to all you guys pursuing film and activism.
Yeah, and great questions, really great questions.
Be well, all of you. Thanks.
Thanks, Marsha.